What's good, family? It's Ra. We back and we finna get right into it. Now, this video is a little bit experimental, a little bit different. But first thing I want to speak on is we're gonna be talking about why Lil Uzi Vert is facing the fall off allegations, the washed allegations. Now, I think this is just the internet. I don't really think it's real. I think the problem is that in the era we live in, you make one misstep and everything you've done in the past, all the work you put in means nothing because we live in an era where people like to tear people down. Now, the reason why I think this is stemming from, we have to talk about the mistakes and the missteps that were made after Eternal Take was dropped. Now, the missteps were made where a lot of the singles that were put out they just weren't hitting like that. And I think another issue is that a lot of the music that he dropped in between Eternal Take and Pink Tape, a lot of those songs didn't even wind up on Pink Tape, and that's another issue too. And during that, he did the same thing again, where he disappeared. During the lead up to Eternal Take, he disappeared, and during the lead to Pink Tape, he disappeared. And I think that was a bad idea because he didn't really promote this project, and then he was promoting other projects. Like he was talking about, oh, Pink Tape, Love is Rage 3, Forever Young, like all these projects and all these titles are getting thrown out and all these snippets were getting released, but we didn't really know what we were getting. So no one really knew what to expect for this project. And he wasn't doing interviews, he wasn't really talking, he wasn't really connecting with the fans. I think he thought he could do the same thing. Uzi thought he could do the same thing of, doing the I'ma make y'all wait, and I think it was like 3 years before he dropped Pink Tape, and I don't think people wanted another wait like that rollout. Like he did the same rollout, but you can't really replicate that hype again, with the first one. I think especially you have to look at what was surrounding the hype around Eternal Take. You had songs like Of Course, Zoom, This Way, Come This Way, Myron, and so on and so forth. The one with Chief Keef, Kobe 24. So you had those songs, so people wanted those songs. Where with the build up to Pink Tape, well, we didn't even know we were getting Pink Tape because he was talking about all these other projects and all these other snippets, and everything he said during that lead up wasn't even on the album. So no one knew what they were getting. And then once we got it, it was all like, well, everything you said we was going to get leading up to this point, none of that happened. And it wasn't, there was a lot of rock themes and stuff like that, which I thought it was good. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think the project was bad. I think it was just the rollout and the build-up leading up to the project didn't match what he was saying. So a lot of people were turned off to what they heard based off of what he was saying in the build-up, and we didn't even know that was even going to be the name of the album. So that's another thing too. And then you had Eternal Take 2 after Pink Tape, which wasn't really that great. But I think another issue is sequels are never good as the original because you can never recapture what you had. I think this to pivot off of that, I think that the Carter series, Lil Wayne, was the best thing to happen to hip-hop, but also the worst thing to happen to hip-hop. Now you're probably thinking, Ryan, what do you mean? I mean that everybody is trying to recapture the glory they had before with sequel projects. Everyone's trying to do a 2, a 3, a 4. And I think that you set that expectation of it needs to be as good as the first one, and everyone can't replicate that. I don't think every project needs a sequel. I don't think we need a Take Care 2 or Nothing Was the Same 2. Those aren't real projects, but let's say Drake did that. I don't think we need that, and I think that's the issue. Everyone's trying to recapture that feeling, that emotion, but you're not the same person. You don't have the same mindset, and if you're an artist, you're not the same person you were when you made that project. So I think everyone has these expectations going into it, and if you don't recapture that same feeling, people immediately want to write off the project. So I just think sequels are just not a good idea in projects. We've only seen a couple projects that recapture that feeling, like Love is Rage 2, DS2, the Carter series. A lot of times they slap a 2 on there, and I think it's to boost the sales, but I just don't think that sequels are good for album projects. But I don't necessarily think that Uzi's done. I think he had poor single choices, and I think he needs to stop saying, like, announcing all these projects at one time, and then once the project comes out, it's something completely different to what he was announcing. So he'll announce 3 album titles, and then once the album comes out, it's not even that name of those 3. So he was like Love is Rage 3, Barter 16, Forever Young, and then none of that happened, and all of a sudden we're getting Eternal Take 2, and there was no build up for it at all, and I think that hurt him because he did that with the last 2. And I don't think he's necessarily like he's done, but we're in an internet era where people love to say people's done. It's like people get relish in the fact that someone's career is over. People like to laugh, oh, they sold this much, or they fell off. Like, people love to say, oh, he fell off. But, like, you was just listening to him. So I don't know why you trying to clown someone saying they fell off. I don't think he's done. I think this next project is make or break, but I don't think it's over. I just think that the internet doesn't reflect the real world, and that people just love to say people are down. You know, like the saying is, it takes 15 minutes to destroy a reputation, even though it took you 15 years to build it. So I don't think he's done. I just think that this next project's make or break for him, and I think he should, you know, stop, you know, being listened to those fans. Like, a lot of his fans are telling him what snippets to drop and what grails to drop, and I think he just needs to just do what he wants to do instead of listening, no, we want this snippet, we want this leak, we want that leak. You know, I don't think pay attention to that. I think make the fans think they got what they wanted and they'll end up liking it. I think that's important. And stop announcing all these projects too. Like, stop announcing 4 different album titles, and then the album that you were previewing and showing everybody, when the album finally drops, it sounds like nothing you were previewing. I think that's the issue too, because once people hear that, they're turned off from it. But I don't think he's done. I think we've heard the snippets, we heard a lot of things that he's been doing, and I think that it's only up from here. I just think that the internet, especially in hip hop, people love to say, oh, he fell off. It's fun to people because a lot of people are envious. But I don't think he's done though. But it's Rye. Like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And remember, it's already yours.